Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're going straight to the heart of the Roman Empire.
Ooh, gladiators and chariots.
Even better, we're going inside the mind of an emperor. We're talking about Meditations, the personal writings of Marcus Aurelius.
Ah, this is fascinating stuff. Now, these weren't meant for the public, right?
Exactly. It's more like we stumbled upon his personal journal filled with private thoughts and reflections he never intended for anyone else to see.
A window into the soul of an emperor, huh?
I know, right? We always see these historical figures as these untouchable giants, but Meditations lets us see Marcus Aurelius as a human being.
Struggling with real stuff.
Exactly. Power, duty, the meaning of life, surprisingly relatable stuff. But before we get too deep into his philosophical musings, let's set the scene a bit, shall we? So, Marcus Aurelius, born into a prominent Roman family, adopted by Emperor Hadrian, no less.
Destiny calling.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about pressure. He was rigorously educated in all the classic stuff.
Yeah.
Philosophy, rhetoric. And eventually, as we know, he takes the throne at age 39.
39. That's crazy young for an emperor, isn't it?
It is. And his reign was not all sunshine and roses. He faced plagues, wars, even a rebellion from one of his closest generals.
Wow. Sounds intense.
Oh, it was. And that's what makes meditation so intriguing. It gives us this raw, unfiltered perspective on leadership, not the polished, official version of history.
You get the man behind the curtain.
Precisely. For example, his co-emperor, Lucius Verus History, often portrays him as a bit of a, party animal.
Ah, the fun-loving brother.
Right. But in Meditations, Marcus Aurelius' own words paint a much more complex picture, one that suggests mutual respect, maybe even affection. That's fascinating.
It always pays to go back to the source material.
Always. And speaking of going back to the source, it's interesting that Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations in Greek.
Not Latin.
No, Greek. Now, of course, Greek was the language of philosophy, but for a Roman emperor to choose it for his personal reflections, it's telling, isn't it?
Oh yeah, shows where his head was at.
Okay, so we've got this emperor facing down wars and plagues, and where does he turn for solace?
Don't tell me. Stoicism.
You got it, Stoicism.
Oh.
And before you picture a bunch of guys with stiff upper lips, repressing all their feelings, Stoicism is way more dynamic than that.
It is, at its core, it's about finding this inner peace, this resilience, by aligning yourself with the, I don't know what's the right word, flow, the rhythm.
Well, the Stoics called it the logos, the rational order of the universe.
Right. Not some mystical thing, though. It's about recognizing that the universe operates according to, I guess, reason, natural laws.
Exactly. And the Stoics believe that we humans are part of this rational order, that real happiness comes from living in accordance with it.
Okay, I get that. But how do you actually live in accordance with, nature?
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. That's what I want to know.
So the Stoics believed it was about focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts, your own actions, your reactions, and accepting what you can't.
Like the weather.
Like the weather. Like other people's opinions.
Plagues and wars.
Plagues and wars. And for Marcus Aurelius, this wasn't just some abstract philosophy. He put it into practice every day as emperor.
Wow. Okay, now I'm even more curious to dig into Meditations. This is going to be good. It really is. And you see this play out in Meditations. There's this one part where he's talking about getting angry, right?
Yeah.
And how he dealt with it. Not by, lashing out or anything.
This should be the typical emperor move, probably.
Right. But he catches himself and reminds himself that the person who made him angry was probably acting out of ignorance. Not malice, not bad intentions, just ignorance.
Interesting. So it's about controlling your own reaction to things.
Yeah.
Not trying to control other people.
Exactly. And it's like he's giving us his own personal toolkit for staying level-headed in tough situations. And we're talking emperor-level tough. But at the same time, it's so relatable.
That's what gets me every time I read Meditations. This is an emperor dealing with stuff most of us can't even fathom. Yet here he is, wrestling with the same emotions we all feel. Anger, frustration, grief.
It's all there.
There's this passage where he's reflecting on the death of his adopted father, Antoninus Pius. Man, you can just feel the raw emotion, the heartbreak.
He clearly loved him very much.
You could tell. It's a good reminder that even emperors, Even emperors experience loss and sadness just like the rest of us.
Absolutely. What strikes me about that passage, though, is how Marcus Aurelius takes his grief and kind of channels it into this reflection on Antoninus's virtues, his compassion, his dedication to Rome, his insane work ethic.
He was known for that, right?
Yeah.
Always working.
Oh, yeah, always working. It's like Marcus Aurelius is using these memories of his father as a guide for his own actions as emperor.
Which makes sense when you think about it. I mean, talk about pressure. Following the footsteps of a beloved, hardworking emperor. And let's not forget, he was dealing with some crazy stuff. Wars, plagues, political backstabbing, you name it.
Ugh, it was a wild time. But even in the middle of all that chaos, you see him turning to Stoicism to find his center.
To stay grounded.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how he uses these Stoic principles as a framework for making decisions.
Like a practical guide to ruling an empire.
Yeah, basically, like, he constantly reminds himself to focus on what he can control, his own actions, his judgments, and to let go of everything else. There's even this part where he talks about using these mental exercises almost to reframe challenging situations.
That's it, Frank.
Yeah, like to see them from a different angle. It's like he's doing cognitive behavioral therapy centuries before it was a thing.
Wow. So Stoicism is like proactive.
Yeah.
It's not just about being passive and accepting whatever happens.
Right. It's not about being a doormat. It's about taking control of your inner world so you can better handle the outer world. And for Marcus Aurelius, that meant leading with justice and compassion. There's this great line where he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something like, "Don't waste your time debating what a good man is. Just be one."
I love that. Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And you see that in his reflections on leadership. He talks about the importance of listening to people, being open to different perspectives, and never letting power corrupt his judgment.
It's like he was really trying to be a good ruler.
He was. And what's so striking is the humility. He's the emperor, right? The most powerful man in the world. Yet he recognizes that he's still just a flawed human being, like the rest of us. And there's something incredibly inspiring about that.
Totally. It reminds us that leadership isn't about ego or dominance. It's about service. It's about responsibility. And recognizing that we're all connected.
And he doesn't just mean connected to other people. He takes it a step further. He sees humanity as part of this larger cosmic order, this web of life that connects all of us.
We're all in this together, folks.
That's what he's saying. And you see it in how he writes about nature. He uses it as this source of wisdom and guidance. There's this beautiful passage where he compares human lives to olives, like olives ripening on a tree, falling to the ground when their time has come.
That's a powerful image.
It is, and it's a metaphor for accepting death as a natural part of life, part of that larger cosmic cycle.
I love how he uses these metaphors.
Here.
It makes these big philosophical ideas so much more tangible. He's not just talking about abstract concepts. He's bringing them to life.
Exactly. He's making Stoicism come alive, both for himself and for us, by grounding it in everyday experiences.
You know, it's funny. We're here talking about this ancient Roman emperor, but his ideas feel so relevant today.
Right. This focus on self-awareness, on resilience, on living in harmony with nature. It's like he was ahead of his time.
And his emphasis on personal responsibility. That's something we could all use a little more of these days.
Tell me about it. It's so easy to get caught up in blaming external forces for our problems, right? But Marcus Aurelius is like, nope, you always have a choice.
You have power over how you respond to things.
Exactly. And I think that's the magic of meditations. It's not just some dusty old text. It's a living, breathing guide to being human.
I like that. A guide to being human. So we've talked about Stoicism, leadership, and Marcus Aurelius's personal reflections. But there's another layer to meditations that I find fascinating.
What's that?
His use of it as a tool for self-improvement. Like he's not just writing these things down, he's using them to become a better person. It's like having a personal accountability buddy, but it's you talking to yourself.
Right. He's constantly reminding himself to live up to these Stoic ideals. Be just, be kind, be patient, even when things are rough.
Even when you're an emperor.
Especially when you're an emperor. And, you know, he even writes about specific techniques for dealing with difficult emotions. There's this one part where he talks about using mental exercises to reframe challenging situations. He steps back, looks at the bigger picture, reminds himself that everything is temporary.
And poof, new perspective.
Exactly. It's like he's creating his own toolkit for navigating the ups and downs of life.
And it's all right there in meditations.
Open for us to learn from. And, I don't know, maybe even try out ourselves, see if it works for us.
Yeah. I mean, if it worked for a Roman emperor, it might be worth a shot.
Right. Why not? But, what really strikes me is his emphasis on personal responsibility. Even as the emperor, Marcus Aurelius never acts like he's above the need for self-reflection, for self-discipline.
It's that humility again.
Right. He recognizes that real power comes from mastering yourself, your own thoughts, your own emotions. That's where it starts.
And that's a powerful message for all of us, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught up in the chaos of life. Blame our circumstances, blame other people for our problems.
That's the easy way out.
It is. But Marcus Aurelius is like a voice of reason, reminding us that no matter what's going on around us, we always have a choice in how we respond
And
to
we
it.
have more control than we think we do.
Exactly.
We have the power to choose our inner state. And that's incredibly
Oh,
freeing.
it is. It really is.
Yeah.
So we've been digging deep into meditations for this deep dive. What's your biggest takeaway? What's that one nugget of wisdom you're walking away with?
That's a tough one. There's so much good stuff in there. I think for me, it's that idea of living in accordance with nature. And not just in the go hug a tree sense, although that's great too.
Right. There's more to it.
Right. It's about aligning yourself with that rational order of the universe, recognizing that everything is connected, that we're all part of something bigger, and trying to act in a way that contributes to that greater good.
Right.
It's a powerful concept.
It's like stepping back from our own little world, seeing ourselves as part of this grand, interconnected web.
Exactly. And that can be both humbling and empowering, It's a good reminder that our individual lives are just a small part of this much larger story.
And that our actions have ripple effects.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it also means we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
We can let go of trying to control everything.
Yeah. Focus on what we can control. Our own thoughts, our own actions.
It's like that classic quote, "Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference."
Classic Stoicism. And still so relevant today.
Amazing how these ancient ideas still resonate, isn't it? Thinking about Marcus Aurelius, about his life, his legacy, kind of makes me wonder, if he were around today, what advice would he give to modern leaders?
Oh, wow. What a question.
I mean, the guy dealt with pandemics, wars, political turmoil. Sound familiar? What wisdom for meditations could he offer to help us navigate the challenges of our time?
That's a question for the ages, and I think it's one we all need to ponder.
It has been fascinating spending this time with meditations, with Marcus Aurelius, with you. This window into the mind of a Roman emperor, it reminds us that no matter how much power or responsibility we have, at the end of the day, we're all human, and we're all trying to figure out this thing called life.
We are. And meditations reminds us that we don't have to do it alone. There's wisdom to be found in these ancient texts, guidance for navigating the challenges of life, no matter what those challenges might be.
So whether you're leading an empire or just trying to make it through another Monday, there's something in meditations for everyone.
Absolutely. A timeless reminder that the search for wisdom is a lifelong journey.
And that even emperors, well, they need a little guidance sometimes too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.